Ladies and gentlemen, this is a 2021 AMG A35 4MATIC, otherwise known as a Mercedes-Benz. And it's not exactly what you think it is. First of all, let's talk about the fact that this vehicle can be yours for around $53,000. We'll go into the actual price at the end of the video. But what I wanted to discuss with you is the name AMG, because it may not be what you think it is. And for Mercedes-Benz, this is the least expensive AMG you can get. All right, and hopefully you guys won't have to do that very often, because maintaining these vehicles is not cheap. Why? Because it's an AMG and it's a Mercedes. All right. Now, speaking of AMG, for those of you who were living under a rock, AMG is Mercedes-Benz performance branch. What you're looking at here isn't exactly what you think it is. When you get an AMG powertrain, the engine is usually built by one person. They had a motto, which is like one man, one engine, where one dude would build that engine and even put a plaque on it and say, it's all yours. Hans built this, or Meyer, or whoever. Nope. I mean, you notice there's no little plaque here, and the reason why is because this engine isn't really built by AMG. What happens is the engine is built as a 4-cylinder turbocharged 2-liter, and it's sent to AMG, and they work with it and make it hotter and give it back to Mercedes-Benz, and they put it in the car. So it's not exactly a real AMG. And I wanted to get that point across because a lot of people keep thinking that for 50 grand, you can get into an AMG. Well, if you're a Mercedes purist, not so much. But here's the good news. 302 horsepower, 295 pound-feet of torque. And that comes on hard, like a hammer. It is front-wheel drive, and it is an all-wheel drive setup, so front-wheel drive bias. And it has an 8-speed dual-clutch transmission. We're going to talk about that 8-speed in a bit. Good news is that this is a fairly frugal vehicle, so despite the fact that, yeah, it has a suck-down premium and it really does move like a rocket, it is efficient. 25 mpg combined. Overall, this powertrain will give you the satisfaction of going 0 to 60 in well under 5 seconds, even up here at high elevation. So it's really fast, and it's tenacious with its grip because 50-50 power split. In other words, you could take up to 50% of the torque and send it to the rear wheels when needed. And the way this vehicle works, especially in performance modes, it will do that often. So it almost feels like it's rear wheel drive. But there is a trade-off. Boom, in gear. Probably the least manly part of this car. I'm really not a big fan of these stocks, but that's something Mercedes has just done for a long time. Okay, so let's talk about this transmission, because that's a big part of this story. It's not great. It's the one thing I don't understand. The way Zach, our bossy man, put it, it feels like a kid is learning how to drive a manual transmission. And he's not completely wrong. So I'm not going to floor it or anything else. I'm just light accelerating. You could feel it almost like slipping before it engages into gear. And it's kind of slow-witted. And now this is all in comfort mode. Suspension's in comfort, the engine, everything else, everything that I have in here is left in comfort mode. Okay, so keep that in mind as we go over very minor dips and the entire car does this. I'm not exaggerating, all right? Now, let's do a little bit of acceleration. Now, this is, once again, in normal mode. First of all, there it goes. Mother of God, this thing is fast. Very noisy, so it's not very Mercedes-like in terms of the vault quality of the interior. And the transmission really gets hung up, even when you're driving it nicely. So slow transitions into different gears, it just doesn't really like that. I adore the looks of this car, especially from the front. I think it looks masculine and kind of badass. And this color is outstanding. It's called denim blue. And when you mix it with the white accents of the interior, just stupendous, lovely. I really do dig it. And I like the front end design. Love these gills. Love the headlight design, the angry look. Then things start to change. But first, let's talk about more good. Right here. These are the optional 19-inch wheels. You can get 18s. The 18s don't look as cool as these. But if you get the 18-inch wheels, you might have a spine left in your back in one piece after you go driving. No more AMG badges on the side. You have Turbo 4matic. You have this. Okay. So everything was great until here. And this is where I think, I don't know, guys. I mean, maybe I'm wrong. Maybe I'm being too harsh. But this design here, the way this is shaped, it's just not as sexy as the rest of the car, right? And when you realize that the wheelbase of this car is pretty much the same as like a Honda Civic, you start looking at this section and thinking, I could have done something else that really gave it more jazz. Let's go to the very back. There's some good news. Now, unlike a lot of Germans that have been doing fake exhausts, oh yeah, woohoo, AMG, just so you can tell everybody you bought one. Real exhaust pipe. Yes, thank you. Hello, way down there. Yeah, big, fat, tall people do have issues getting into these little low cars. The good news is that it's German. As such, they do build a car that can fit somebody like me. At least up front. Back seats. Back seats. Yeah, we'll get to that in a minute. Let's talk about the interior real quick, because there are a couple things you guys should know. First of all, both of these screens, now this is your, all your instrumentation, your infotainment, 10.25 inches, each one of these. Even though it looks like it's one screen, it's really two. And that's great. This is actually a touch screen, which is great. Here's what's not so great. Look down here. This is how you control it. These control pads are not great. As you're driving, it's haptic feedback, so you click around, you can move things around, make it do things, and blah, 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 blah. Okay, which is awesome. But it doesn't work great. And it's not what I would call intuitive to use. Also, there's something strange here. Now, I know Mercedes-Benz, they love doing the stock control for their transmission. That's fine. And I know that they have this pad here. I guess I could get used to it. Okay, so let's talk about the rest of this. I love these turbine-style vents. They work great. They're easy to use. Thrilled with this. Also, toggle switches. Love having that. This is great. Probably the best part of this design right here. I love toggle switches. Steering wheel is from the gods, and they had me in mind when they made it, because not only is it sporty, but it has a flat bottom for big fat guys. Easy to get in and out of, but also really just the feel of it is fantastic. Now, this is a proper sports car. This thing is stupid fast, and it has incredible reflexes, meaning that when you're driving it, you actually might use the paddle shifters. Unfortunately, just like a lot of other car companies, Mercedes-Benz decided to keep them on the actual steering wheel, meaning that if you're going full lock and you're trying to hit this, you might screw up and hit the wrong thing. I just wish they had it integrated with the steering wheel, big ones, like a proper sports car. But most of you who are going to buy this are not going to be playing with these, okay? So, what about the rest of the interior? Well, these materials aren't too bad, but for a $50,000 plus vehicle, I was kind of hoping for a little bit nicer. Still, the seats are quite nice. They're comfortable for my big American ass, and there's just enough comfort in the back to where my shoulders don't feel like they're falling off like they do with other vehicles. All right, guys, I have really bad news for you, and that is that if you are tall and if you want anybody who has legs to sit behind you, they're gonna have a hard day, and here's why. This seat is pretty much all as far back as it goes. I'm around 6'1", and now I'm gonna try to get myself in here. Now, there are other cars in this class, by the way, that have tiny back seats. The G70, which is one of my favorites, and by the way, I think a better alternative than this car, it still has pretty tight back seats, but not like this. This is, I can't get my other, all right. So there we go. I'm not trying to be hot, although this is hotness, right? Yeah. So there are some good things back here. In case you get people who are average size and the driver's an average size, you might actually be able to get them back here. First of all, air conditioning vents on a small car like this, and they're little turbine ones too, which is adorable. I love that. That's great. Storage is abysmal. Yeah, that's no good. So this isn't really a car for commuting or for small families. It'd be okay with small people, I suppose. But the point is that between the ride comfort, which is on the lower side, and the overall sport DNA that's baked into the car, this isn't something that you want to bring people around with anyway. This is better for golf bags or for like a pet. If you're in sport mode and you're driving on a public street, you are a menace. I just guarantee that right away. And it'll hold its gear for a long time. And if you go into manual mode, it'll pretty much go up to red line, which is really cool, actually. So it's holding the gear, and going down. That was light acceleration. It just immediately wanted to kill you. So now that I've done that, I'm going to go back down into, oh, here's Sport Plus. I don't even touch Sport Plus. Sport Plus is for the track only. Also changes the algorithm, not only of the shifting, but of traction control and everything else. But there we go. Now that wasn't even full acceleration. That was light acceleration. It's like a hair trigger. And this is what's frustrating me. This car is constantly tugging at the leash. So as much fun as it is, and it's ridiculously fun, I can't seem to drive it without nearly running people over or nearly flying through traffic. You lucky dogs, we just have enough sun to show you what this car really looks like. And as I said, that blue is stunning. So to recap, great to look at, decent looking interior, ridiculously powerful engine, athletic performance, abysmal ride, a transmission that wants to find you at home and hurt you, and a vehicle that's not exactly an AMG, but still is going to cost you over 50 grand. How much? Well, let me tell you exactly. This vehicle, as equipped, MSRP is $52,990. They say its suggested retail price starts at $45,850. Yeah, you're not going to find one for that price, not even close. This one has a whole bunch of stuff, including the paint, the wheels. You can get 18s, these are the 19s. And just so you know, it has the optional equipment and value-added packages. It's not like German companies nickel and dime you, right? So everything included, including the AMG Ride Control Sport Suspension, which is built to hurt you, all of that combined is, well, several $1,000s. Okay, so what do I think of the vehicle? Honestly, there's no reason to get a vehicle like this unless you're serious about driving hardcore all the time. Because even in traffic, it feels like it wants to tug at the leash and go out and actually grab something and gnaw on it. It's like a little angry pit bull. If you have family members or friends who have a gentle stomach and you want to drive day to day in this, could be an issue. Keep that in mind. Also, is it worth this money? Well, there are competitors out there like Genesis that I think provide a lot more for the money, but they're not quite as fast or as athletic. Thanks for joining me for the Fast Lane Car. This is Nathan. I'll see you next time.